Mario Kart World is here, and the question on everyone's mind is this game worth $80? Well, maybe not is this game worth $80. Is this game worth 450 plus $80? Because right now, the only real exclusive that the Nintendo Switch 2 has is Mario Kart World. That and Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour, which is a whole bag of worms that we'll have to get into, as you often do with bags of worms. Hi everybody, Jake, your resident content cowboy here. We are going to be talking about Mario Kart World in this way too early review, but I'm going to be reviewing it anyway. I think Mario Kart World does have a big problem, and no, it is not just the price, which we will talk about. First, let me say I recognize this review is too early. In fact, most all game reviews are too early. I feel like I can pretty quickly tell whether or not a game is good. However, you can never really know how much a game is going to affect you, the world, how big it's going to get. If you were to ask me how I felt the first time I played Stardew Valley, I would have told you I thought it was amazing. I think it's incredible. I would not have known that it would go on to be one of my favorite games of all time. There are other games you play that you think are pretty good, and you don't know that that game is going to fizzle out in about a week. I don't think that's something that's going to happen with Mario Kart by any means, but I do think all reviews are in some way a little too early. This one, pretty rushed, but I want to give my thoughts on Mario Kart World right now. First, I'll give you a quick backstory on my history with Mario Kart. This is the first video game I've ever played in my life. No, I'm kidding. I played a lot of the Mario Kart games. I think I've played every single Mario Kart game. I do think it's one of the best franchises Nintendo has. In fact, I think it's one of the best franchises in all of gaming. Mario Kart 8 was phenomenal. It's probably the best in the series. There are some arguments to be made for sure, but I think it was absolutely incredible. So Mario Kart World has a lot to live up to. And again, it is really the only title releasing for the Switch 2 that people care about, because they are not really releasing any titles yet. Before I get into the problem with Mario Kart, let's talk a little bit about the game. So first off, I would say this game feels a lot more chaotic than the previous Mario Kart to me, and there's definitely multiple reasons for that. There are more racers in every battle, and the way you move around the environment, the way you take hits from the different items in the game, it feels different. In fact, it has a very interesting way of handling damage that you take from your opponents, from a green shell, from a blue shell. It feels like everything hits you in some different ways. The physics of how you are damaged and how that affects you while you're driving are completely different in Mario Kart World as opposed to Mario Kart 8. And some of it I absolutely love. In fact, I have to say in general, I kind of love the chaotic play style of Mario Kart World a lot. I do think that could make the game very difficult down the road for people who want to stick with the game long term, right? It feels like for a casual audience, this might be a really fun change, but for a very competitive audience, this might be like slipping in Smash Brothers, where they think, why did you add this mechanic into the game? So I don't know how everyone's going to feel about this, but it definitely feels less punishing sometimes when you're damaged in a battle, and then other times, I don't know why I'm calling it damaged in a battle, when you're hit with an item in a race. And other times it feels very punishing. And with more racers on the track, there are times where you are rubber banding super hard, going all the way from 24th place up into one of the top places in the race, just based on a few items. And I will talk about items here. There are some new ones in the game, but I don't know if I need to go into a detailed breakdown of every single item. I just want to talk to you about the feel of items and what feels important in Mario Kart. First, before we get into that, let's talk a little bit about the new mechanic, bouncing around walls, doing tricks and stuff like that was not present in Mario Kart 8. I kind of love it, and I also am sort of scratching my head with this new system in the game. It does feel like overall drifting and just getting your boosts that way, along with items and finding good paths and shortcuts, is much more powerful than finding any opportunities to trick or wall ride. It actually feels like at times you are slowing yourself down by performing these tricks in the game. Now, I recognize when you get a nice combo going with tricks, you can actually you know, get a huge boost and a huge advantage. And I also recognize that players will find extremely cool opportunities to trick and make shortcuts through the map. I totally get that. That is going to be amazing. But my first feeling about tricks is I don't want to use them that much, and I really want to spend most of my time racing my races how I did in Mario Kart 8. Again, focusing on good drifts, making sure I pick up all of my coins, just having good lines as I move through the course, and then focusing on the items I get. I'll talk about items, I think, when I start to talk about some of the modes, because I think in one mode, items feel so unbelievably important. It's probably true of all the modes, right? But in one mode, it feels like make or break whether or not you get good items. One huge change to this, of course, is the open world, which you're able to access right when you start the game. Just hop right in and start driving around the world. I thought I would find the open world kind of boring, and at first I was, I guess, maybe a little confused as to what to do in the open world, but cruising around, finding little secrets, unlocking little missions that you can do in the open world, getting different costumes for my characters, I actually ended up really enjoying it. And the first day I played Mario Kart World, I played with my daughter, so we played a couple races together, and then I let her cruise around the open world for a while, and it's probably the most fun she has had with a video game ever. So that was really cool. For information, my daughter is 6 years old, so she hasn't played a ton of video games yet. She's played a little bit of the last Mario Kart with me and some kind of early Switch games, but she had an absolute blast in the open world. And playing it on stream with everyone giving me like, oh, go over here and look for this, it was actually a really great time. I don't know how long you are going to be playing the open world, because it does feel like once you complete a lot of the quests in there and you find all the costumes for your characters, it feels like the open world will become pretty barren. However, at first, I think it's really fun and a super unique way to explore Mario Kart that they've never given you the option for before. I mean, there are times in Mario Kart where I think you would always wonder, like, what happens if I could go the other way? And then you get picked up and put back on the track. But in this, you just really get to cruise around, kind of see all the ins and outs of the courses. And it actually makes the new courses in Mario Kart World feel much more impressive, because they were designed not only as a race course, but also as an open world area you could explore, which I think is pretty amazing. Grand Prix, of course, is the mode that Mario Kart has been known for forever, and Mario Kart World is, well, I would say it's actually a little different, but if this is one of the main modes in the game. Again, all of the new courses I think are pretty phenomenal. I've had so much fun with them. I like how they incorporate certain areas where you can use the new mechanics, and different areas where it really feels like you just need to focus on racing a great race. It's also very fun to have more racers in the race. In the single player mode, it really is still the basic, you're racing against like a few of the top bots and everyone else is just kind of cruising around and is irrelevant. But in general, it is cool to have more racers there. It is very fun to see more characters on the track and give you an opportunity to kind of claw through more and more classic Mario characters as you make your way to that first place spot. I will say this is not my favorite mode in the game, which we will get to a little later. And in fact, I haven't spent as much time with Grand Prix as I thought I would at all. That's what I thought I'd be spending all of my time playing with Mario Kart World. But new courses, very cool. And again, super cool how they are incorporated into the open world. I think that's pretty fantastic. Then you have battle mode. And if I'm being honest, I've never really loved the battle mode in Mario Kart, and this is no exception. I don't like this mode. It doesn't feel like anyone's even queuing up for it. And the queue times are long. The mode is kind of boring to me. If it's doing it for you, that's great. I've just never liked this mode. I tried it a couple times online and I found it to be pretty boring. And I do think a lot of the modes have an issue where they pale in comparison to the best mode in Mario Kart World. And we might as well just get into it, because outside of the price tag, I do think Mario Kart World's biggest issue is Knockout Tour. Knockout Tour is so unbelievably good. Listen to me right now. Knockout Tour is some of the most fun I've ever had with Mario Kart in my entire life. and every other mode is an awful piece of garbage compared to it. No, I'm kidding, but I mean, it's so dang good, dude. I don't even know what to say. It's like the only thing I want to do with Mario Kart World is play Knockout Tour. So the new Knockout Tour mode will have 24 racers all queued together, and every time you make your way through a race, players will get cut off. The lowest certain amount of players, I think it's like the lowest at first like 16th of players, then 8th of players, then a 4th of players, on and on and on. But basically, you need to be placing higher and higher and higher as you are going through this series of races. It starts cutting off at top 20, then top 16, then 12, 8, top 4, and then that's the final race essentially where you're racing for that first place spot. This mode is the best. I love this mode. It is so good. It feels to me like Battle Royale mixed with Mario Kart in the absolute best way. You get your heart racing every time you are coming up to the next checkpoint, where you literally will be cut off or you will go forward. And right at the end, when there's that blender of all of the karts racing together and there's this chaos happening, you don't know exactly what place you're in for a moment. So you could just cross the finish line in the exact place you need to be or just miss it. There have been some heartbreaking misses and some miraculous moments as you move towards that checkpoint. I don't have the words to express. I'm sorry. I should have went to more college. I should have learned all of the good words so I could express how much joy, excitement, how nerve-wracking it is. I wish I could express to you how much fun I am having in this mode. Knockout Tour is an absolute blast. We managed to get to the top 4 many times while we were on stream. We managed to win a few times, which is just the absolute best feeling. And of course, we had these heartbreaking moments where it felt like everything was going right, and then of course Mario Kart happens and we just miss the next checkpoint by a hair. The items in this mode feel like make or break, so let me talk about that. I said I was going to talk about the items, and I want to. I think some of the new items in Mario Kart World seem kind of cool, but in general, it feels like the items, and this is coming from a player who I would fully admit is a mid-tier Mario Kart player. I'm not a Mario Kart pro. I'm so sorry I didn't go pro. I should have went to college to become a Mario Kart pro, but I just didn't. I think I'm a mid-tier player, but from my perspective, it feels like missing your items in Knockout Tour is absolutely devastating. So, when the item boxes pop up and everyone's kind of jockeying for a position to get to, you run into situations where you might miss your items, and that could be the difference between you getting to the next checkpoint and not. It also feels like mushrooms are the absolute best thing in this game by far. Mushrooms will allow you to take big shortcuts on the map and also just get yourself into that slightly better position so you can, inch your way further and further down the Knockout Tour. Overall, the thing I think I like most about items is it feels like when you're getting hit, you're not always crazy punished. The thing I think I like least about the items is I feel like if I'm not getting a mushroom, I'm quite disappointed. I'm pretty disappointed in a lot of the items. Of course, there are crazy good ones like the mushroom that makes you huge. Lightning, blue shells can be used in some pretty incredible ways. But in general, I just want mushrooms. Just give me a ton of mushrooms. Even if I get hit, I can boost right after with a mushroom. I can make a, nice shortcut that will cut me 4 racers ahead, and that will put me in a comfortable position to make my way to the next checkpoint. In general, overall, the whole thing with this game to me is Knockout Tour. I think it's probably the best Mario Kart mode I've ever played. And I do think that's the biggest issue with the game, because I don't think anything else is close to as fun. Now, you might be saying to yourself, hold on, Jake, Who cares if one mode is the best mode in the game and everything else doesn't compare? I think that's totally fine if you think that. You also might be saying, hey Jake, what do you put in your hair? It's a pomade, okay? It's also a hair styling powder. And what I like to do is get some heat, tension with a blow dryer, keep that up, and then start putting product into it after that. So you style it a little bit while it's slightly wet, and then you put product into it and continue to style it. And I think a lot of you probably didn't ask that question. Back to Mario Kart World. Wow, Knockout Tour. Unbelievable. The other modes in the game? Fine. They're fine. Knockout Tour? Amazing. Now let's take a second and talk about the $80 price tag. And all I have to say about that is, what's the problem with that? What are you guys, some broke boys or something like that? No, I'm kidding. I don't love the $80 price tag. The Switch 2 and Mario Kart are very expensive. I don't like the start of the $80 game world because it doesn't just go to Mario Kart, right? Here's one of the issues with an $80 price tag. There are some games that you could play that you could argue are worth $200, right? I'm sure there's a game that you've played in your life where someone goes, how much fun you've had with this game, how much time you've spent with it, what is that compared to like a regular $60 game? And you could say, this is a $500 game for me, right? Like, I think back to Stardew Valley, a game I bring up a lot. I have bought Stardew Valley on like every single console I've ever owned, so I guess I have played a lot more for it. But I think the first time I bought it was like, what, 15 bucks or something like that? For me, Stardew Valley is like a $200 game. I have put so much time into that game. I love it so much. And then there are other games that I paid $60 or $100 for their collector's edition, and I didn't get that much enjoyment out of it all. Those games were like $10 games or something like that. So it's kind of hard to have a conversation about the price of something like that. And it's also hard to have a conversation about the price of anything because price is very subjective, you know? There are people who fly private planes, and then there are people like me who grew up where, you know, I might get a video game for my birthday. You know, some people live in very different worlds, so $80 is very different to a lot of people. But my general thought is, I don't love the ushering in of an $80 game world, because when more games are $80, not only does it reasonably have you play less games because games cost so dang much, it also makes a lot of these sort of mid-tier games that you just need to stay away from entirely. Like, I'm sure we've all played that game where we thought, yeah, this maybe isn't fully worth 60 bucks, but it's okay. Now imagine that game is $80. I think you would just never play it. And it would actually make you stay further away from lots of games until you heard a lot about it. And maybe that's a good thing, right? It lets you, listen to game reviewers you care about or friends saying like, no, this is actually great. You need to spend your time with it and your money on it. But I do think $80 for so many games is really rough. And it's not just Nintendo that's going to be doing this. Every company is going to be putting out an $80 game. And an $80 game is just, it's not good for consumers, right? And the other tough thing about Mario Kart is Mario Kart's gonna sell just fine. It's gonna cover its costs. It would cover its costs at $40. According to Google, Mario Kart 8 has sold 76.66 million copies worldwide. 76 million copies. I think this game doesn't need to be $80. Now, if they were saying this game was $80 and you got all future DLC and all the, like, maybe something like that, but Mario Kart 8 is gonna do just fine. They could probably sell this game for 10 bucks and be totally okay. Now look, I'm not against Nintendo trying to make money. Obviously, they know certain games are going to fuel a lot of their other projects. Basically, like Mario Kart World is going to make so much money that it is going to cover all of these other projects that they're working on. So I understand that, right? You have big tentpole movies that allow movie studios to make other smaller indie projects that they like. But I do think Mario Kart World is a weird game to start with, considering it clearly will sell millions upon millions of copies, and it's just a bad look for the industry in general. I'm kind of surprised that Nintendo was the first company to do it. So, all that talk about Mario Kart World. What is my rating of Mario Kart World? I don't have one. I don't have a rating system. I haven't come up with one. I don't really know what to say, except I wanted to talk about this game. My overall take on it is, if you have a Switch 2, you are playing Mario Kart World because there really isn't much else to play on the Switch 2. Do I like Mario Kart World? Yeah. I kind of love knockout modes so much. I was just kind of like thinking about it the other day, like I was done streaming. I was just thinking about it. I'm like, dang, that is one of the coolest game modes. I love it, and I hope Nintendo learns from this and continues to make cool, fun things like it. I don't think I need to give you, should you pick up Mario Kart World or not. You are either going to because you have a Switch 2, or you aren't. And I think if you get it, you're gonna have a great time with it. Let me know what you think in the comments. I hope you enjoyed this way too early review. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. I love you guys, and I will see you all next time. We did it.